welcome back to my channel. Today's video we are going to be doing a tag, and I'm doing the hashtag No Disclaimers Tarot, and this is by Katey Flowers. It's kind of an older tag. She did it a while ago, but I'm seeing it kind of go around TarotTube again, so I thought I would do it. It looked really fun. I saw Mistress Ray doing it and I was like, I want to do that tag. Because there's a few, like one of the things on this list, one of the prompts, I actually wanted to make a video about all by itself to kind of touch on the topic. But I thought, why not just do it in this tag so I don't have to make a whole video. So yeah, there's 8 different prompts. I'll link Katie's video down below and I'll list prompts if you want to do it yourself. But yeah, so the first prompt is, what trends / tropes in tarot annoy you the most? So that would be these kind of decks. So these are the decks that Insight Edition does that are like Disney themed kind of cash grabby decks. So I own this one. I also own the Disney Villains deck. And the Disney Villains deck was actually a Christmas present. And it just goes to show that, like, I feel like these decks are kind of changing the narrative of tarot, right? Like, when somebody thinks of a tarot deck, they're like, oh my gosh, it's this, like, trendy thing that, you know, I don't know how else to explain it, but, like, the family member that got me the Disney Villains deck, like, that's probably what he thinks tarot is, right? And I'm not going to get rid of that deck because it was a gift, but it irritates me so badly, these cash grabby decks, because I feel like it's making tarot into this like trendy thing when it's a lot deeper for a lot of us, right? I purchased this deck because The Nightmare Before Christmas has a very special place in my heart, and I do enjoy this deck around Halloween and Christmas. It fills that Nightmare Before Christmas kind of feeling for me. Do I think this deck could have done better? Absolutely. But I think it's one of the better ones out there. So I don't regret buying this deck, but they could do so much better. There's a Supernatural deck that came out by them, and it's just trash. Like, Supernatural is one of my favorite shows, and when I look at that deck, I think it's a disgrace. Like, with a show that has so many different characters and so many different people that they could have depicted, they chose to do like this weird pippy thing. And you know, there's lots of talk out there as far as why they have to do that, right? They have to do it for licensing purposes and whatever. They can't show too many characters, but it's like, it would be worth it, you know? And that's not saying that I don't enjoy fandom decks. There's actually a deck that I just found the other day, and it's a non-official, like, Adventure Time kind of tarot deck. And every single card has a different character on it from the show. And there's so many different characters in Adventure Time. I'm actually rewatching the show so that I can pick up that deck and be familiar with all the characters, because Adventure Time is another thing that has a big childhood connection for me, and I want to be able to get that deck, and it's so well done. And these decks, I just don't like this mass produce, like, they're coming out with so many of them, they're not being well done, nobody's really happy with them, but people are buying them that maybe are new to tarot, and they see their favorite kind of fandom, right? So they buy it, and they're probably going to be put off by it, right? It's going to be weird to learn because it's like half pips and half not. And even though it's their favorite kind of TV show or whatever, it just irritates me. It's just like this trend of doing these like cash grabby decks is just, it annoys me. And I don't like when tarot turns into this kind of trendy thing that people do just because it's popular, you know? That irritates me. So that is the first prompt. The second one is, what deck do you feel is overrated? There's some questions on here that don't really have like a deck for me to show you guys, but so I'm going to show you, or just like flip through my Tarot Enchantment? Forest of Enchantment. Forest of Enchantment Tarot. It's beautiful. I'm just going to kind of flip through it as I'm talking, but the decks that I feel are overrated, I just don't get it, you guys. Like, this is no disclaimers. I know I'm not supposed to disclaim, but like, I don't understand it. And it's nothing against the creators. It's just, I don't get it. And I want to know if I'm alone in this. This was the one that I wanted to make a video on, was decks that everybody seems to love, and I just don't get it. So the first one would be the Lightseers Tarot. And the Queen of Pentacles in that deck is beautiful. That's actually one of my favorite cards. But the deck as a whole, I just can't do it. I do not like that deck. It's just too like modern, and like, I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me. And I do have one modern deck, which is the Modern Witch, and I just hear so many people rave about that deck, the Lightseers. I'm probably gonna get hate because everybody loves that deck. I just don't get it. It's like too like love and light, and like I just don't get it. It's not for me. Another one I really don't get that everybody seems to love is the Wild Unknown. And I mean, some of the artwork on that deck does appeal to me. It kind of brings me like this nostalgic feeling of like, I don't know how else to explain it, but like video games and computer games I would play as a kid. It kind of brings back something like that for me when I look at it. And I wasn't in to tarot and on TarotTube when this deck kind of hit the scene, because from what I understand, a lot of people love that deck because it was so different than like the tarot decks that had come before it, right? But I just don't get it. I don't get it, and no. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm never going to get these decks, because like I've eaten my words before, but I've never felt like I wanted these decks in the slightest. The artwork, just like, I don't get it. I do not get it. So I think they're overrated personally. That's just a personal opinion, obviously, but I just want to know if I'm the only one. Like, if you don't get those decks either, I would love to hear, because I don't want to feel alone in that, because I do. I feel like I'm the only person that doesn't have one of those. So, okay, so let's see what the next question is. Number 3, what are your least favorite decks you've seen since joining YouTube? Again, I feel like it's decks like these, like just ones that feel super like commercialized or something. Like the Marvel deck that came out recently. I don't get that. Like, it just, why are we turning Marvel into an Oracle deck? Like, I just don't get it. I'm sorry, I feel like they're trying to appeal to that audience, but like, it's just so weird. And then another personal one, I just don't love like the super modern decks, and that's just me. I like to kind of be transported to a different world when I'm doing tarot, and I do understand like the importance to relate to the images as like a way to relate them to your personal life and things like that. And so I do have the Modern Witch, and I feel like when I want to really relate to this modern world, that's something I would pull out. But like, for me, it's really healing for me to go back to roots, or go back to like a more earth-based world, I guess. So that's just a personal thing. I don't like super modern decks that I see. So yeah, like these cash grabby Insight Edition decks, and then like super modern decks are decks that I don't really enjoy, that I've seen since joining TarotTube. Okay. Number 4, what is one card that has ruined a deck for you? So, I have a deck here that there's actually a few cards in here that ruined it for me. This is the Gregory Scott Tarot. Now, I most of the time will watch a walkthrough now of the whole deck before I purchase it, because a majority of this deck I like, and there's a few cards that just throw it off for me. So these are the backs. It's a beautiful deck. There's so many things about it that I like, and I guess I'm gonna take the cards out that kind of ruin it for me so I can show you a little bit of the deck. So this deck is set in kind of like an old time frame, right? Look at that. We have like a pendulum for the Four of Swords hanging above him, Queen of Pentacles with all that abundance. Like, I love that. It feels very like medieval kind of in a way, or like I don't know, it feels like an older time, right? I love this for the Justice card. The Chariot card is one of the most beautiful Chariot cards I've ever seen. This one's a little weird. Like, it just seems like this deck is a little bit all over the place. I mean, for the most part, it stays on theme. It stays like this kind of old world theme, right? Which I love. Again, this kind of goes back to like the modern deck thing for me, because I don't love modern decks, and I don't like when decks are mostly not modern and then they'll bring in something modern. I have that issue also with the Everyday Witch Tarot, which I have that issue with like 2 cards, but I love that deck so much that I can get over it. There's so many beautiful things about this deck that can bring an extra element, an extra layer to a reading. Like, look, I love like that medieval kind of feel. So you get the vibe of the deck, right? I love the runes on the back. I think one of the knights has all these runes on him. I mean, look, I love to see the 3 of Cups as males. I love that. This Death card, I think, is so beautiful. I love the wheel. Oh yeah, this Knight of Cups, I love this depiction. All right, so you get the vibe of what the deck is, right? So then I'm gonna show you these cards, and it's just like, huh? Okay. First one is this 8 of Cups. So we go to this very like medieval kind of feel to this like very modern depiction. I mean, she has like this gown on, right? But the house in the background looks so modern. We have a teddy bear, and she's like walking away from her boyfriend, whatever. Like, I get the vibe that it's the 8 of Cups. Like, I get that. But what? Like, it's just... I don't get this Strength card. I mean, I get it, right? It's like the barbed wire in his brain and like mental strength, I guess. Inner strength. But it just doesn't go with the deck. Like, we have this very old world kind of feeling deck, and then we throw in this very like modern looking interpretation of the Strength card with this like barbed wire. Like, I'm sorry, but was there barbed wire back in medieval times? No. And then this is one of the cards that really threw it off for me. Like, this Tower card. This tower looks like the most futuristic tower ever. Like, it looks like some like alien built modern, like in 100 years kind of building. Like, I just, like, what? It makes no sense. So I've decided for now to keep this deck because, you know, I feel like there's some lessons to be learned in why I have these like bad reactions to these cards. And it also, I feel like it depicts a lot of the cards in a different, fresh way that I really enjoy. But those cards just make me so mad. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to move past it, and we'll see. We'll see if I'm able to move past it. I don't know. Okay, so number 5, which out of print deck do you wish was still in print? So right now, I mean, I'll come across decks that I wish were in print, right, all the time. But one that's really standing out to me lately is the Solara Occulto deck. I think that's how you say it. I originally was drawn to the Crimson Asteria deck, which I saw on a walkthrough, and I wasn't aware that was a deck that existed, because it was a Kickstarter, and I was super drawn to the artwork, and I loved the all red. And so the Crimson Asteria is one that's like next on my wish list to purchase. But I found that artist also came out with the Solaro Occulto deck, which I feel like I would have picked over the Crimson Asteria if they were both in print. And I really love the vibes of it, and I love the coloring and all of that. So I'm really hoping that comes back into print. There's like talk that it possibly could. So I'm still holding out that one would possibly come back into print. So that's the one that's speaking to me now. Okay. Number 6, what are some of your tarot and tarot tube pet peeves? I mean, there's a few. I guess one that kind of I came across recently, which I didn't even know was a thing that people do, but it kind of rubs me the wrong way when I see people who buy a lot of decks and they bought them because like their favorite tarot tuber has them, or because they're popular, and that's kind of the only reason they bought them. To me, it's like, I don't know. I don't know why people feel like they have to buy something or possibly go through like financial distress to get something because it's the new hot thing and their favorite person talked about it. But I guess that is a thing, because I've seen like a few people who kind of have that mentality of like, this is popular, so I have to get it. And it's like, okay, but is it something that you would have gotten if this person didn't like it? You know what I mean? So I just urge people to be very mindful with their purchases. You don't have to get something because somebody else has it or it's like the new hot thing. If it's something that appeals to you, then by all means go get it. But I don't like when people feel like they have to get something because somebody else has it. And that's kind of like their main motivator, I guess, for buying the item. And then kind of in that same vein, a pet peeve of mine is when I hear somebody kind of act like they're better than other people because they have less decks than other people or they have more decks than other people. Like, just let people live and do what they want to do, right? It doesn't matter how many decks you have or any of that. If somebody only likes to read with the Thoth and that's all they have, or they only have one like Rider-Waite-Smith deck, cool. But like, don't talk about it like that's the only way or the best way to do it, right? Just be respectful of other people's practices, and yeah, I just don't like when people act like what they're doing is the only way. And so yeah, those are my tarot tube pet peeves. Okay, so number 7, what are some decks that you feel should have more recognition? So I actually have 2 here. These are 2 that I just pulled off my shelf that I feel like I never hear anybody talk about. So this first one is the Embroidered Graveyard. This is a fairly newer deck, but I just feel like I never hear anyone talk about it. And it's like so good. It's one of my favorite decks ever. And I guess this just goes to show, like, everybody has their own taste, right? This is my cup of tea, but I know, like, it's not everybody's cup of tea. But I love creepy things. I like weird things. I like dark things. And so, like, the light and fluffy decks just aren't my thing. Which is fine, you know, like the ones I was talking about earlier just don't fit me. This one is one I feel like more people should know about and like, you know, but that's my personal taste. So it's beautiful. I love it. It's dark. It has this spirit communication aspect to it, and that's what really drew me into it. I use this for paranormal work. I use this for introspective work for myself. I use this for moon readings. It's just, I mean, I don't know how to explain it other than, like, the actual feeling of using the deck and holding the deck in my hands brings this other element to it. I genuinely feel like it has this energy to it, and I don't know how to explain. But this deck actually inspired me or made me declutter a lot of decks that I never use, because I was like, if these decks, when I pick them up, don't make me feel the way that this deck does, what's the point of having them, right? It's just something. It's the energy of the deck. It's beautiful, and it's very underrated, I feel like. So that is the Embroidered Graveyard. And another one that I picked up that I feel like I never hear anybody talk about, and it came out a while ago now, I think close to like Christmas maybe, or a little bit before then. That is the Runic Tarot. This deck, again, has a very specific energy to it. It's a very dark deck, but it has this fiery energy to it. And I actually, like, if I was thinking about doing a element tarot tag where you pick decks for each of the 4 elements. And this deck for me is 100% a fire deck. It feels fiery, even though it has this really dark, kind of wintry feeling to it. It just has this fire energy to me. And I think it's because of the energies. We have a lot of, like, Norse gods and things like that in this deck. And the guidebook is wonderful for this deck. I love that they incorporate the runes into it so that you can learn that while you're learning tarot or whatever. It's just really beautiful. The artwork's really stunning. I like the interpretations of a lot of the cards. They've changed kind of the imagery to be something different. And I really enjoy what they've done with a lot of the depictions. So yeah, I think this deck is very underrated. I think I've heard like one other tarot person talk about it, and I think it deserves some more love. Okay, so the last question is, number 8, what are your thoughts on negative reviews? Now, I don't care if you do a negative review. Like, it doesn't affect me either which way. Like, I've definitely, I mean, I don't purposely come on and do negative reviews on, like, on purpose, I guess. But if I am unboxing a deck and I'm not happy, like, I'm going to convey those thoughts, right? It's funny because Mixtress Ray's scalding review of the Embroidered Graveyard and how she didn't like the font and all these things in the guidebook, her showing that deck is actually what inspired me to get it. So I mean, we all have our own opinions, right? As long as you don't let your opinion be swayed by other people's opinions, it's fine. Just because one person thinks something doesn't mean that you have to also believe that thing. We all have our own opinions and our own thoughts, and I do enjoy watching reviews of decks that I love and other people are saying they don't like them. I still enjoy that content because I like watching TarotTube, and I like watching people gush about decks that I don't get it, right? Like I will watch somebody go on about the Lightseers and how much they love it and how much it means to them, because I like to see people connecting with tarot and enjoying tarot. And in the same vein, I like to see people sharing their thoughts in the opposite way or their negative opinions on things. I think personally, as long as they're not being purposefully like nasty and mean to the creator, that it's fine. I mean, as long as they're not bullying or just being outright disgusting, then, you know, who am I to say that you can't do something, right? But to me, that's just when I would kind of step back and not watch anymore if I saw somebody being outright nasty, right? But we all have opinions, and that's what makes TarotTube so beautiful to me, is we all like different things, we all react differently to things, and just because one person has a negative review of something, it doesn't change my personal opinion of that item. But I love to see other people's point of view of things, right? So that's my thought. Might be all over the place, but yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to do this tag, I'll have the prompts listed down below. Thank you to Katey Flowers for making this tag, and thank you for Mixtress Ray for inspiring me to do it. But yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful day wherever you are, a magical week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.